What's up, everyone? It's your host, DJ Hamilton, DJ Sports Show. If you guys watch on YouTube, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. And listen to any audio platforms I'm on whether Spotify, Google, whatever. Leave a 5-star rating. Share with everybody you know loves sports. Give me reviews. I want to continue to try to get better. But man, that Super Bowl last night. Whoa, talk about demolition, redemption, revenge, vengeance. The Philadelphia Eagles routed the Kansas City Chiefs three-peat aspirations in a 40-22 rout. And man, I did not see that coming. I'm gonna tell you that right now, ladies and gentlemen. I thought this was going to be a competitive game. I was very shocked to see what was happening. This might have been the best defense I've ever seen against Patrick Mahomes. And I saw the 21 Buccaneers. What this defense did, I've never seen Patrick Mahomes so flustered. So he had no answers. And he didn't look poised. Like, the offensive line wasn't doing a good job. He was pressured 16 times in this game and sacked 6 times. This was the most times he was ever sacked in a Super Bowl in his 5 Super Bowl appearances. He was combined a total 10 times in his first 4 Super Bowl appearances. That's how elite that defensive front 4 was. And it didn't blitz either. Shout out to Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. That front 4 did a tremendous job of applying pressure on that offensive front line of the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And you would think how great Mahomes' magic is, how he's able to maneuver ways to get things going offensively. The Eagles did not allow that. And shout out to Nick Fangio, the defensive coordinator they brought over, who used to be a head coach for the Denver Broncos. And what he's done in turning this defense around, this defense was 30th in opponent points allowed per game last year. This was one of the worst defenses a year ago. And then they bring a new defensive coordinator in. They add different guys to the defensive unit. They draft a Cooper DeJesus, who returned the interception touchdown on his birthday. Shout out to him, 22nd birthday, man, on that Patrick Mahomes pick early on in the game. These two different types of guys, Mekhi Becton, offensive linemen, like, their offensive line is elite, and the defensive front 4 is impeccable. And they demoralized the Chiefs. If you watched the game, you saw how on the sideline, the Eagles, the way they were dominating defensively, how you saw Patrick Mahomes like looking for answers on the sideline. Travis Kelce with his head down. Chris Jones on the defensive end, he was on his knees because the Eagles offense was. And if you were to told me this Chiefs team will hold Saquon Barkley, the offensive player of the year, the best running back in the league this season, to only 57 rushing yards, and they will get demolished how they did and lose the game, I would have thought you were crazy. I would have thought you were crazy. Saquon Barkley had 25 carries for 57 rushing yards, and they still lost by 18 points. I would have thought you were crazy if you would have told me they would have won this game if Saquon wasn't dominating the run game. Because most of the games they won, pretty much every game they won this season, he rushed for over 130 yards or more, 150 yards or more. That's how dominant he was this season. And he did break the single-season rushing record, including the postseason, for most single-season rushing yards in a season, breaking Terrell Davis' record. So shout out to him. And his birthday, too, 28th, won the Super Bowl championship. Shout out to Saquon Barkley, man. After leaving a poverty franchise in the New York Giants, how they did him dirty. They didn't want to pay him. They thought Daniel Jones was the future of the franchise. They thought, oh, we're going to build with Jones. He's our guy. We think he could bring us further along than Saquon, who came in the NFL right away, killing everybody on the field. And they didn't think, oh, running backs were as valuable or they could build around long-term with him and win with him. Well, he proved all of them wrong. And you see when you put an offensive line with an elite running back and you pair him with a really good quarterback to alleviate pressure off him, to be able to do what he does best, so he produced a season like Saquon just did. And, man, I just want to give props, too, to Jalen Hurts, man. Jalen Hurts, man, he outplayed Mahomes. He outplayed Mahomes simply. 221 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He threw 1 interception, but the game, when he threw that 1 interception, the game was basically already over. He had 1 rushing touchdown, that tush push early on in the game. That was the first score of the game to put the Eagles on the board, and it didn't look back. And he had the 119.5 QBR rating. That was the best of his career, postseason career. 119.5 passer rating, I believe it was. The best of his career. And he became the third quarterback in history to win a national college football championship and a Super Bowl, joining Joe Namath and Joe Montana. Patrick Mahomes had 257 passing yards, but most of those came in garbage time. They were really down 40-6 at the end of the third quarter. He got a little garbage time points that touchdown to Xavier Worthy late in the third. And they got another couple late in the fourth or during the fourth quarter when the game was already pretty much over. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Those 2 interceptions, one like I mentioned earlier to Jesus, the young stud slot back linebacker for the Eagles, so I think it's gonna be really good for the foreseeable future. And then one to Zach Bond, and that was created by the defensive front line again, pressuring that offensive line, Patrick Mahomes. I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was Jalen Carter or Josh Sweat. I think it was Josh Sweat who pushed one of the offensive linemen into Patrick Mahomes. That kind of made him lean into awkward position, got him a little bit off bounds. That caused a little bit of a narrow throw that Zach Bond caught, dived in the air, and intercepted within the Kansas City's 14, 15-yard line. Get them inside their range. Easy points scored, converted on that touchdown for the Eagles. And Patrick Mahomes, man, those turnovers. He had the strip sack fumble, I believe, later on in the game. 3 costly turnovers. 2 of them the Eagles scored on. And if you want to win a Super Bowl against this type of team, elite teams in the NFL of any sport, you can't have unforced errors. And that's what the Eagles forced. They were unstoppable. And this is what, like I said, man, I know media pundits are going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how dominant this defense was historically once the rivals were a little bit more, and the Patrick Mahomes GOAT debate. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, I just want to give kudos to the Eagles, man. This is a team that last year they really struggled. Remember, last year they had that hot start last year, and then they just like tumbled down. Like they tumbled down from 2 years ago when they made the Super Bowl, and then they lost in heartbreaking fashion to the Chiefs off that field goal by Harrison Butker in overtime. That was a great game, 38-35. They lost that game, and Jalen Hurts, remember what he said? He said, I will be back. And, man, they came back. They retooled. They got an all-pro wide receiver, A.J. Brown, who was he was killing Trent McDuffie one-on-one. He said, I got that matchup. And then Trent McDuffie's no scrub. This is an all-pro safety. Like, this is one of the best linebacker safeties in the NFL that he's going up against. A 2-time Super Bowl champion, Trent McDuffie. And he was cooking him all game. He had no answer for him. And one thing that the Eagles really showed how multidimensional they were is it wasn't just that. One thing I'm thinking of is if they didn't dominate the run game, how were they going to dominate the Chiefs? Chiefs were a good defense this year in the run game, but they really struggled against the pass. Jalen Hurts has gotten incredibly, incredibly good at getting better against the blitz. And he had the best season of his career against the blitz. He has best completion percentage this year. I was looking it up. Heading into the game, his completion percentage against the blitz this year, 66%. The best of his career. And you saw that. He found open gaps within the blitz against Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator of the Chiefs. Hall of Fame defensive coordinator, one of the best to ever do it. All-time great. He'll be a Hall of Famer. Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles, they were finding gaps within that blitz. And Steve Spagnuolo, if you were watching the game, he was like, man, I don't know. They were finding ways against his elite defensive strategies, and he had no answers. Jalen Hurts is one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. He was finding gaps within the blitz and rushing and finding and getting first downs, new set of first downs for his team, and new possessions. Their time of possession was, I forgot the time of possession. The time of possession for the Eagles in this game, 37 minutes to the Chiefs 23. So they basically had 14 more minutes of time of possession in this game. They were more efficient with the time of possessions, and they capitalized on their chances. Like those turnovers that Mahomes had in this game, they were able to capitalize on those chances because one thing against the Chiefs, you don't want to go up only 10, 15, 17 points because that's still within reach for them. They have proven that time and time again throughout the years that only 15, 17, they could come back. When they were up, when the Eagles went up 24-0 heading into the half, their defense was so dominant. The Chiefs had 1 first down the whole first half. Only 23 total yards in the first half. This was the best defensive performance I've ever seen. And I seen the Bucs in 21 against Mahomes, but he had a depleted offensive line. I know they had everybody healthy in this game, and I think Joe Tooney was playing a different position. I don't think he was playing his usual position. I think they had him at guard. I forgot which exact position, but that kind of messed up the offensive line, conjumbled it and everything like that, and it kind of caught things off guard. The Chiefs will have some things to answer this offseason. They got to really retool that offensive line. They got to get some new explosive offensive weapons. And I know they didn't have Rashee Rice, who really could have helped them in this year's Super Bowl to take some pressure off Kelsey, who was basically he was non-existent in this game. He only had like 39 receiving yards on 4 receptions, no touchdowns. He had that drop pass. Mahomes, that kind of was Mahomes' fault. He took that pass a little bit too low. Kelsey early on in the game, Kelsey couldn't bend down enough to get it. And that led to that was a foreshadow of what would happen throughout the game. They couldn't get anything clicking offensively. And I never seen Mahomes so flustered. He looked out. That was the first time I think I've never seen him like poised. You could see the body language of the Chiefs when they were walking to the sideline as the Eagles continue to pour on points, dominate them physically, mentally too, on the football field. And it showed on both ends of the field, offensively and defensively. Their defense could not stop their explosive offense, their multidimensional offense that they have built. Shout out to Kellen Moore, man. Like I said, and shout out to Nick Sirianni. This guy was criticized throughout the years being cocky, being too passionate. Oh, why is he showing so much emotion and all that? This guy, everybody was like, oh, why would he always be the one calling the plays? Now he kind of has trusted others, such as Kellen Moore, bringing him on offensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator, and trusting others to call plays so he could do his job as a coach and do it to the best of his abilities, not have to worry about so much on his shoulders. And it proved to be valuable. Look, they ended up winning the Super Bowl. This is the third team in the last 10 years to win multiple Super Bowls. The Philadelphia Eagles, they join now the New England Patriots, Tom Brady's Patriots, and Patrick Mahomes' Kansas City Chiefs. And one thing this franchise can always say, they beat the 2 greatest quarterbacks probably of all time. Brady, no debate, the GOAT. And if you have Mahomes as the second greatest or Montana, that's up to you. But I think Brady's the GOAT, and then Mahomes is the second greatest quarterback of all time. But they beat those 2 guys, the 2 generational quarterbacks who are considered the best of their era. And they did that. They ran both of them for another ring. And man, now I know Eagles fans are really hyped. Fly, Eagles, fly. But man, you got to be hyped if you're an Eagles fan, man. You guys, everybody's talking about the chatter, the refs. I know it didn't start off great early on. That offensive interference by A.J. Brown. Trent McDuffie putting his little stiff arm right there. I didn't like that call. I thought it was a little bit soft. And then Trent McDuffie, roughing the passer they called on the Chiefs. That was soft. Some of the early calls early on, they were soft. It wasn't a great start on either for both teams. And I didn't want to hear the ref talk. I wanted it to be a fair, clean game. And even the Nick Bolton roughing Saquon Barkley but that was like his momentum going into Saquon because it was a 2nd and long. That play kind of changed the game to me because it was still within striking distance for the Chiefs, but it was 2nd and 26 for the Eagles. They called a necessary roughness on Nick Bolton against Saquon, and that gave them a whole new set of first downs and gave them 15 yards, 1st and 11. And then the Eagles were able to capitalize. Like that changed those little ticky-tack penalties and the errors by Mahomes and the offensive line couldn't protect him, and then Mahomes being uncharacteristic. Those 3 things cost the Chiefs this Super Bowl. The offensive line being actually getting destroyed by the defensive front 4 of the Eagles. Mahomes uncharacteristic type turnovers. He didn't play up to the standards, and then the penalties, man. Those penalties kind of they really cost them. Some of them they shouldn't have been called, but some of them were boneheaded, and it just sucks to see. Like I wanted to see the 3-peat. I wanted to see Mahomes. I wanted to see a football team get a 3-peat. No team in the Super Bowl era has done it, but in NFL history, the Green Bay Packers were the last team to do it before the Super Bowl era. Barstar and them won the first 2 Super Bowls. Barstar, all-time great quarterback, and they won championship before the Super Bowl era. So they were the last team to 3-peat. But in the Super Bowl era, no team has ever 3-peated. The Chiefs were the one team that even got to the Super Bowl with a chance to 3-peat of any back-to-back champion in NFL history. It just sucks they weren't able to finish the job. I did really want to see history, but I am happy to see Saquon get a championship. Jalen Hurts, another black brother, a quarterback to get winning a title. Now he could quiet the naysayers saying, "Oh, he's not an elite thrower. Oh, he's not the most exciting player to watch. His style of play isn't really like appealing to the the casual fan, but he gets the job done, and that's what matters at the end of the day. Do you get the job done to help your team win? And that's what Jalen Hurts did. Now, the GOAT talk, Mahomes and Brady. I think that's kind of put to rest for time being. The fact that Mahomes in his 2 Super Bowl losses has lost and gotten demolished in his 2 losses in the Super Bowl. In 21, the Buccaneers and Brady, he lost by like 20 points. And then this one, they lost by 18, but it really was like 40-6 at one point. It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. Like those two garbage touchdowns at the end, they just did that to hopefully lessen the cushion of the blow, but it was over. They were losing by like 30, over 30 points. That's how bad it was. It was an indictment of what the Chiefs have usually been. But yeah, I think that's put the rest to now, the GOAT debate. Even if they won a three-peat, I said if Mahomes gets a three-peat, I don't think he's the GOAT. I still think he would need like 2 more rings. Now it's going to take a little bit longer for him to get there. And it kind of hurts. Like, if you think about it, like that in 21, his offensive line was completely depleted. They didn't have a lot of their starting guys on the offensive line. That's why he was getting destroyed in that 2021 Super Bowl against the Buccaneers. So I kind of give him a pass on that one. There were a lot of things going on with Andy Reid personally. The team was just out of, the vibe wasn't good. The vibe check wasn't really great for the team during that year. So I kind of gave him a pass for that year because his offensive line was just gone. I know he honestly, he could have like 5-6 rings right now. In the 2018 AFC Championship game, they lose to Brady. That offside call, D Ford, man. Oh man. Like they could have won that game. And I think they would have won that Super Bowl against I think the Brady did play the Rams that year, 2019. That was one of the most boring Super Bowls of all time. It was a low-scoring game, but yeah, Brady and them ended up winning. I think the Chiefs, if they would have advanced against the Patriots that year, I think they could have won a championship right there. That's one win right there. The complete offense line, 21. If not for that, I think Mahomes would have had a better chance, even though I think Brady would have won. 2022, they lost to the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. Joe Burrow. Man, I thought they could have beaten the Rams that year, but then the Rams, Aaron Donald that year. But he's had 1, 2, 3. That's 3 potential rings right there he could have had. And then now this year, they lose in embarrassing fashion, basically, to the Eagles. And the Eagles were just a better, more talented team. Even I said that coming into the game. I just thought they were bigger, stronger, more athletic, more explosive. You saw it on the field. They had more pep in their step, the swagger. They had that confidence in them. And it showed. And it was on full display. And now Mahomes, like he has 3 rings. He's a 3-time Super Bowl MVP, 2-time league MVP. He's broken so many records. He's ahead statistically of Brady, where he was at this age and this point of his career. But Brady never lost by 20 points in a Super Bowl. He never got destroyed. He has 3 losses: 2 to Eli Manning, the Giants. That 07-08 season when they could have went undefeated and won Super Bowl. That would have been historic. They lost in 2012 to Eli Manning, the Giants again. And then in 2018, they lost to Nick Foles to the Philadelphia Eagles. So he does have 3 losses, but he never lost by 20 or more. And that's something that is going to kind of sting Mahomes. And the fact that Brady beat him twice in the postseason in the AFC Championship game in that year in 2018, 2019, and then in the 2021 Super Bowl when he was on the Buccaneers, winning his 7th Super Bowl to claim more Super Bowls than any franchise in NFL history. So those things Brady has over Mahomes. And Mahomes, I was watching First Take earlier, and I think I saw a graphic saying Mahomes had the second lowest QBR rating in Super Bowl history, 11.4 or something like that. Horrific. Since the stat was recorded. And like, that's how bad he played. I've never seen him play this bad. And I've been watching Mahomes since the year he was named a starter. He and Lamar Jackson were the guys who got me back into football. And to see him be running out there for his life, he was out there tapping like a ballet, looking for answers. So someone should have called the national security, get him some protection, because damn, that offensive line was not doing it. That offensive line was not doing it. Call the national security, man. Like, damn. Like those guys, they couldn't handle them, man. And just gotta get props when props is due. I'm a Mahomes guy, and Kelsey, man. I don't know if he retires. There's rumblings that I know he said he was going to retire based on the result of the Super Bowl, but I know he ain't going out like this. So I expect Kelsey to be back. We'll see what happens though, because I don't. If as competitor he is, I don't see him running retire going out the way they went out. They didn't even go out on a competitive like losing. They got demolished. They got obliterated. And so that's something, yeah, the Chiefs, yeah. So we'll see if Kelsey comes back. The offensive line, they're gonna have to retool. They gotta retool their offensive line. Well, She-Rats will be back next year. They'll have more time with Hollywood Brown, who didn't come on until near the late end of the season. Isaiah Pacheco had injuries, and when he came back, he wasn't really the same. They didn't really utilize the run game either. That's something I don't want to forget mentioning. Like their three running backs, if I look at it correctly, they only had what between P. Ryan, Pacheco, and Kareem Hunt. They had a total of 7 carries for 24 yards. 7 carries between their 3 running backs, 24 yards. And that's something, and that goes on Andy Reid, too. Andy Reid, all-time great coach. He's a mastermind. But the fact that they didn't really kind of diversify their offense and establishing the run game early to kind of get the Eagles' defense off their heels and take pressure off the passing game and Mahomes and that offensive line, it kind of came back to bite them. It came back to bite them. And they tried to establish a running game in the second quarter. But by then, the Eagles were already doing so much damage. They were up 17-24-0. You got to do that early on in the game to make keep the defense honest and put pressure on them to make them show them that you're not just going to rely and be a one-dimensional offense, which the Chiefs were kind of being, and just relying on the pass. And the pass wasn't working because this is the Eagles team, the best defense in NFL, fewest opponent points allowed, the best against the pass. And this is the best defense overall. And you got to diversify your offense. Great offense beats great defense any day, and the Chiefs just didn't have it. They just didn't have enough weapons. They didn't have enough juice. They didn't have enough pep in their step. And it seems like the attrition of going through, a lot of Super Bowls through the years. This is their 2020, 21, 5 Super Bowls in 6 years. 3rd straight Super Bowl, trying to go for a three-peat. You played longer than any other team in the last couple years because you won 2 straight Super Bowls and then you went to a 3rd consecutive one. So that attrition, that wear and tear in your body, and then not just physically but mentally having to go through the training camp, the long grueling season, that takes a toll on your body and mind, and it showed in this game. The Eagles were just more ready, more prepared. They studied that film book of Mahomes to a T because man, the Chiefs had no tricks for that defense. They knew every trick in the book that they were going to try to do, and they completely wiped it out. Completely wiped it out. So I just want to say congrats to the Eagles. Eagles fans, fly, Eagles, fly. Play fly like an eagle, like Seal, the song. But man, that was one of the best defensive performances you will ever see in football. Ever. And the fact they did it with no blitz makes it even more impressive. In fact, any team that has ever not blitzed in the NFL and caused that many sacks, pressures, and all that, they've always ended up winning the Super Bowl. The fact that you're able to have 4 people and be able to pressure the quarterback that well and not have to bring on more guys to blitz the quarterback and have more of them play in the backfield to defend the pass is a recipe for greatness and winning. Defense wins championships, and the Eagles proved just that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for my recap on the Super Bowl. A tremendous Super Bowl for the Eagles. If I'm them, try to bring this group back, try to run it back, try to bring the same staff because, man, this is a young, and they have a young defense too. Saquon's in his prime of his career. So is Jalen Hurts. They're in their late 20s, so they have a long way. They could be a dynamic duo for the foreseeable future. A.J. Brown, one of the best receivers in the league. If I'm them, try to keep this core intact as much as possible and run it back. If I'm them, that's what I'm thinking. Let's run it back. If I'm the Chiefs, you got some things to work on this offseason, rebuilding, retooling around Patrick, all-time great quarterback, because now it's been his offensive line that's cost him 2 Super Bowls. He could have 2 more rings if it wasn't for a struggling offensive line. And he needs some explosive weapons offensively. You got to give him some explosive weapons. But yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, as your host, DJ Hamilton, I just want to quickly recap the Super Bowl. I hope you guys all enjoyed it like I did. And shout out to Kendrick Lamar. I know some people said that halftime show was kind of but you got to enjoy artistry. So shout out to Kendrick Lamar as well for a great halftime. If you guys like this episode, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys thought about the Super Bowl, your thoughts of it, and what both teams need to do going forward to continue winning. What the Eagles need to do to repeat, the Chiefs to retool to get back to where they were in their winning ways. And yeah, I'm your host, DJ Hamilton, DJ Sports Show. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe and share anybody you know who loves sports. Peace.